against our offensive line. And maybe we were that much better at that spot, or maybe that's just we are that good at D-line. I really like the guys we have there, and they obviously created a ton of problems for those guys. And so happy to get the win, and it was challenging, obviously, when you have the open week in between the two games. I think it's always you're always fearful of maybe not getting off to as fast a start as you'd like to, and it took us a while to settle in there, but happy to get the win. Now we're into a routine and rhythm, which I think coaches like, players like, and we'll move forward starting today on a really good Delaware team that obviously from the CAA is a great conference, and they're I would say an upper level Valley school. I'm very familiar with Danny Rocco. He and I serve on the same committee and on the board, and I know what a great coach he is, great man he is, and he'll have the guys ready to play. It's very similar to what we do offensively. They want to run the football to set up the pass, so we've got to do a great job of stopping the run. And then defensively, they're really sound, very physical, great tackling defense. So it's going to be a great game, great atmosphere in Fargo Dome.
You mentioned Danny Rocco, coach. Do you see a lot of similarities between the Richmond team he brought up here in 2015 and his squad in Delaware this year?
Well, I don't remember that specific squad as well from the Richmond, but I just see the similarities schematically of what he's doing at Delaware, in the fact that the thing that I saw, I think I looked at this even during the open week, how many seniors they have starting. I want to say it's 16, 17 seniors they have starting, and obviously he didn't recruit those guys, but he's inherited that group that there's a lot of talent, there's a lot of leadership, great veterans on there, and you have that many seniors starting. It tells you an awful lot about the culture of their program, and I know that they're prepped and primed for hopeful for a playoff run.
Pretty good in the front seven, Chris. I know they're only giving up 10 points a game. Pretty tough group to run against. What do you make of them up front there?
Yeah, they don't give up many big plays. That's the thing. They're exceptional tacklers. They do a great job in the secondary of keeping the play in front of you, so you have to earn everything you get. And then you're right. They're dominant front three, front four. There'll be a little 4 down, a little 3 down. Linebackers and safeties run and trigger really fast when they see run action, and so it's going to be a big challenge for us. We need to play better up front, and we need to run the ball a little bit better. We need to do a little bit better on all phases offensively to crack this good defense.
You in favor of these leagues playing? They don't normally play during the regular season. They meet in the playoffs, as you well know. What do you think about playing during the regular season?
Well, I think it's great. I think it's great for this region to get a CAA team out here. I think when we go back out there next year, it'll be fun to get to the East Coast, something different. It seems like we always go to the West Coast, so I'm excited that we were able to get this home-and-home matchup with these guys, because Delaware's been good for an awful long time, and I know that Coach Rocca will get those guys back to where they were when their mid-2000s. They had some really good football teams.
You mentioned offensive struggles. Is it for the wide receivers? Are you watching on tape? Are they not getting open, or what do you see in the struggles there of guys in the wide receiver part of the game?
Well, we're just continuing to progress there more than anything. We still have some young guys there. Some of it is good coverage, some of it is tilted the coverage. Maybe Easton's got to make a quicker read. Maybe we got to protect a little bit longer, whatever it may be. But it's something that we're continuing to work on. We're only 2 games into it, so I don't think we have a big enough sample size to be able to say what we're really good at and what we're not good at right now. Let's let this play out a little bit more.
This may be a dumb question, so I may play the female card here, having not played football. Does a left-handed quarterback change anything for you guys defensively?
Some of our strength calls, that's a great question, Beth. Some of our strength calls, yeah, we will. Typically, when the ball's in the middle in a balanced set, we would say, we're going to call it to our left, his right. We'll call it to the right rather than the left. And maybe there's some sprint out things that they would want to do, maybe go into his throwing arm. But most quarterbacks have the ability to go both ways. But no, there's more from a strength standpoint and how we set things rather than how the ball comes out and those other things like that. But it plays into some of our calls based on just balanced sets, you bet.
I'd like to ask this every week, what's the true freshman report? How many did you have?
Boy, I mean, we have, right? We were up to 8 that played, and it's same thing we're telling the guys. We may not play any this week. We thought we'd have an opportunity to play a few last week. It took us a long time to get to that opportunity, but we were able to get there. Maybe none of those guys will play. We still plan on redshirting the lion's share of our guys. And every week in practice, just like we're going to starting tomorrow, we're going to do really an inexperienced NDSU versus NDSU for the next month at least, because we're going to find some guys that maybe can help us this week or maybe can help us 3 weeks from now. And until somebody finishes those 4 games, he's potentially able to help us and play in those 4 games. If we have a kid like Phoenix Sproles, and I think Phoenix is the best example because I think he'll be in the mix all year long, we envision Phoenix staying in the mix. But each week it's just going to be kind of a wait and see based on how well a guy progresses in practice, where he fits within that game plan, offense, defense, or special teams, and how many games he's played.
And you said this, you mentioned this in preseason that they might engage him more in practice. Have you seen that?
Absolutely. And I guess the biggest reason I say that is we'll go a scout team look, and where all the freshmen are down on the scout team, and then we'll stop it and say, okay, really NDSU young guys, that could be a freshman, a redshirt freshman, a redshirt sophomore against the defense of the same class, and we're just doing a fall camp script because we want to see in our base offense and our base defense how well those guys are doing, how much have they progressed, so they're not just seeing cards and thinking they're a scout team guy, because we don't know. We're knock on wood, we were pretty healthy this week, but if we'd have lost a guy at position whatever, boy, we maybe need that kid to come in and play this week. Maybe the guy's a 2-week injury, we need a guy to play for 2 weeks. We have to keep stressing that on a weekly basis that you're an injury away from playing. Now, which guys are coming along fast enough? And that's every week's going to be a little bit different.
So are you saying you altered your practice schedule a little bit?
Absolutely.
Now? Yeah.
Absolutely. We've done that ever since when school started, actually. Once we broke from scout team, school started, rather than strictly scout team or having Aaron Steidel go against Tanner Volson every day in a good-on-good period, we're going to go with Carson Schoening going against Quinn Olive or Jack Darnell or somebody that is maybe close to in the mix, or a case like each quarterback getting an opportunity to go against Michael Tutsi and Josh Hayes and Trey Ford in the secondary, where it's maybe not the best guys or top guys, but it's guys that are in the mix to see which guys can perform under the pressure situations.
Is there still a scout team?
Say that again?
Is there still a scout team?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep. That's part of a practice. Then we break it and go back to the NDSU, and then we go back to scout team. We just keep alternating.
How much more difficult is that going to make prep, do you think, later in the year, not knowing exactly what personnel is going to be out there and how limited maybe some film is on some freshmen? All of a sudden, there they are somewhere and they show up and you're not – I mean, I know schematically things probably don't change a lot, but personnel-wise it probably does.
When we look at an opponent you're talking
Yeah.
about, probably not a lot. I don't think – it's not like we're going to change everything we do because Kenneth Chanel is going to play a snap or two at a slot receiver. We're still going to do what we do, and I think most teams are like that. And so I don't see that changing a whole bunch.
Along the same lines, did you get a chance to reevaluate Trey Lance's tape?
He did a nice job in the plays he was in, and we really did a small sample of a few plays that we wanted him to execute. And a couple of them were easy throws, obviously from under center, so that we could continue to work on that. And a couple of them were kind of a zone read, so that maybe he could pull it and run the football just to get his feet wet of getting hit in a college game. And then we had a play that he changed at the line of scrimmage. Everybody was covered, and he took off and ran and did a nice job. So I hope Trey Lance doesn't have to play more than 4 games. Maybe that's the only game he'll play. I still think Easton Stick's a pretty good player, and if the games are all close, Easton Stick's going to play the rest of the season.
In August, Coach, you talked about the emphasis on special teams going into this season. Through 2 games, is that something you guys are happy with where the special teams are at?
Really pleased with Coach Gazer's groups and Coach Roll's groups. As we watch it and look at an awful lot of tape on Sundays of our special teams, we're really flying around well. We still need some technique things that we have to get cleaned up, but the energy and emotion that our guys are playing with on teams is really good. Garrett Wagner's turning into a pretty good punter. He's still young, but we like what Wags is doing. Ross Kennelly's doing a nice job on short and deep snaps. He made a nice tackle on punt. really pleased with Adam Cofield, who's on kickoff making some plays. Jackson Brown's doing a great job. Ty Brooks is doing an exceptional job. Tutsy. We have a number of guys that are in the mix for us, and it's creating great competition. I know they snapped it over the punter's head, but Spencer Wagey had it blocked. They didn't block Spencer, and he was in the A gap, and he probably would have tackled the punter. He was the fastest one off the football at 6'5", 260 pounds. He beat every DB we had off the football. The punt was blocked, so we're emphasizing it. We're continuing to improve upon it. We still need to work on our kick return. It's just didn't get enough opportunities with kick return. Hopefully, we don't continue to have many opportunities at kick return. And then this was the first game where I really saw the fair catch rule come into play. I was surprised at how much it came into play. And then on their last kickoff, we had all of our starters off, had a bunch of backups. We were going to fair catch that last one.
Decision before halftime to kick the field goal, is that kind of a flow of the game? You get that third score, you feel pretty good at halftime, up 3 scores?
Yeah, we were kind of going back and forth with that decision, as well as the defense was playing. I thought if we got another field goal and got it to 17 points, I didn't see those guys getting 3 scores.
Chris, you and I talked before the game, I think on Saturday, about Brock Robbins. What about him makes him a special athlete that now you want to play him at another spot?
Well, he played a lot of tight end. He played more tight end than he did fullback for us on Saturday, and it helps us because he caught the ball in space. I know he dropped one, but it's going to happen periodically. He made a couple of really nice catches. He's just a versatile guy that's getting more and more comfortable in the system, and we don't want a guy that's just going to be a fullback. We have Malmstrom if we just want the fullback position. We need to be in 12 personnel with he and either Jentz or Ben and line up in formations all over the place, or let him be the tight end and have Jentz or Ben be the fullback, so it makes it harder for people to say, well, wherever Brock's at, that's where the play goes, or if it's 2 tight ends, well, we won't call it to Brock because he's never on the ball. We're trying to utilize his skill set, plus he's getting just so much more comfortable in our system that he needs to be more than a 15-play-a-game guy. He's got to be closer to 30.
Tight ends only have, I think, 3 catches this year. Is that you hope to improve on that?
Well, it's the same thing. We just haven't thrown the ball a whole heck of a lot either, and I think Brock's probably has a few of those catches right there, but let's let it go a few more weeks before we decide who's getting all the catches and stuff. Right now we're 2-0 and we're feeling pretty good.
Back to special teams, is Bachmeyer close?
I don't think so yet. He's probably a couple weeks away. He has a broken hand and he can't tackle. He's playing wide receiver. He can't catch the ball. I think he's still a couple weeks away.
How do you handle Delaware's size offensively? I mean, a 240-pound quarterback, 240-pound running back, and a 270-pound tight end.
Yeah.
How do you handle that sort of skill?
We've got to do a better job tackling. If there's one thing that we didn't do a good enough job of, I thought on Saturday overall defensively, even though we played really well, we missed some tackles that we typically don't miss. We've got to get back to emphasizing wrapping up a little bit more in practice and being a little bit more physical in practice. But really impressed with the quarterback. I think he's more of a thrower and a pocket guy than he is a runner, but he's a big guy that will have to really corral. And then the running back's a great player, big guy that doesn't have very many negative yards. And I like all their skill guys. They got wide receivers, that are seniors. They got a former quarterback that's playing wide receiver. That's a great player that's going to line up in Wildcat and stuff. And this is a really good offense. This will be a big challenge for our defense.
It just seems like Robbie, Chris, we kind of watched pre-snap. He must be one of the better film guys to be around because he always seems to know pre-snap where the ball's going, where to be. Is that the case in your eyes?
Yeah, absolutely. He's one of the smartest guys I've been around as far as understanding the game. He watched Colton Hegel play cat and mouse for 4 years on film of how you can convince somebody that you're being a deep half player and all of a sudden you're in the B gap, or vice versa, be a B gap player and be in the half field. And everybody looks from an offensive standpoint, is it single high with one safety or is it two high? Well, with Robbie, you don't know a lot of times until a couple of steps after post-snap, and that becomes so difficult. And when you get a boundary safety that can do those things, it creates a lot of issues, I think, offensively. We baited them into a couple of run plays where he was in the B gap and they didn't think he would be, and we baited him into a couple of fade balls where they thought for sure that it was one-on-one coverage. And that's a guy that's done it for a long time, feels really good about our system, and playing at a high level. He's an All-American player. There's no question Robbie's one of the top defensive backs in all of FCS.
Is that rare? I mean, you play DB. Is it rare to have a guy that can do that so,
Well,
I don't want to say simply, but he makes it look simple.
No, I think it is pretty easy. Honestly, if you played enough football, I mean, Tutsi will be there, but it'll be another year. Christian and Colton played so long; they got to be pretty good at it. If you don't change a system and you stay in the same system and you double rep and have as many reps as you get a pretty good understanding of what you're doing. Now, Robbie's a special talent. Some guys can do that and then can't come down and make the play, or can't get over the top and make the play, and then you think, boy, that guy's not a very good safety. He just has a unique ability to not only kind of play cat and mouse, but make plays.
So you had a scheme against Joe Flacco. What was that like?
Wasn't very good. We couldn't tackle him. He dialed us up pretty good. We had some pretty good defensive linemen, and we thought we'd have him sacked, and he'd push us aside and look downfield, and you'd be like Carson. He'd be on one numbers and throw it across the field to the opposite numbers, and he did a great job, put a good whipping on us.
Did you leave that game thinking, okay, this guy's a little bit better than your average FCS guy?
Oh, he was a little bit better than your average FCS guy. I thought he would be a first-round guy. I think
That's what I meant.
yeah. I mean, he was a first-round talent, and I was just amazed. Probably similar to what people see when they see Carson. When you saw that kid on the field, how big he was. You know, he was 6'5", 6'6", but he wasn't 210. He was 240 pounds. That I'm like, holy cow, how are we going to bring this guy down? And he did a great job against us. That was a nightmare of a game.
You surprised they haven't been in the playoffs in 8 years? The last time they made it was all the way in Frisco. You saw them at the height of when they were really good.
Yeah, you know, and then I know Casey left there, and then the league's obviously really good that they play in. I thought it was interesting that Danny left a really good job to go to Delaware, which in his mind was a better job, which tells you a lot about the resources and recruiting area and some of those things that he feels comfortable with. And you watch him on film, and they had no business losing the Rhode Island game. Everybody's going to want to say, how did they lose Rhode Island? Well, Rhode Island put a lot of points up last week, and I think it's no different than our league. Anybody can beat anybody in your league as you know teams. But they fumbled a couple of times. They dropped a touchdown pass that was wide open. They snapped the ball over the punter's head that cost them a touchdown. Everything that could go wrong went wrong in that game, and they still had an opportunity to win. So they probably should have won that game. Thanks.